Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. So while Keir Starmer was Director of Public Prosecutions, prosecution rates for rape increased by 30%, conviction rates by about 10%. In addition, 13.4% of all sex offences or cases of sex offences resulted in a conviction, whereas now it's only 2.6%. The Tories think this is a good line to attack Keir Starmer with. All right then. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So, people have different views of the rights and wrongs of Labour's attack ads, but from a strategic point of view, they seem to have worked. Polling shows they have done more damage to the Conservatives than Labour. The only voting intention poll where the fieldwork was carried out after the ads shows a hit to the Conservatives, although I would like to see more, and from some of the good ones. The Guardian recently took a leaf out of the Daily Express playbook. They posted an article where the headline suggested that the ads had actually harmed Labour, but then you read the article and actually, oh no, it was really good for them. All right then. And the surest sign of all, from a purely strategic point of view, the ads have been meeting Labour's objectives, is that the Conservatives have felt the need to fight back. The Conservative Party chair, Greg Hands, wasted no time at the weekend in promoting an article in The Sun. Now, I read articles in the Daily Mail, the Daily Express, the Telegraph and so on. You know, you have to draw the line somewhere. Almost never read anything in The Sun. And if I was going to, I don't think it would be on the weekend of the anniversary of the Hillsborough disaster. But there it is. There's this article. The Sun has the headline, Starmer convicted just 55% of sex offenders as CPS head, Crown Prosecution Service. This is what Greg Hands, the Tory party chair, has been sharing around at the weekend, which is how I came across it. And this is supposed to be an attack line. Not really sure it's going to work. Now, getting a one-stop shop for data on sex offences in England and Wales is no easy task, which suggests to me the Sun must have collated it, which also means there's a possibility a little bit of fiddling went on. But never mind, individual offences are easy enough to find, and as the Tory supporting Daily Mail wants to make an issue of rape convictions today, let's go with that. So there are some very interesting points on this graph. This is from the House of Commons Library, official government data, all accepted by Parliament. See, you can see some interesting things here. First of all, we can see that both prosecutions and conviction rates increased during the time when Starmer was DPP, from 2008 to 2013. The graph shows prosecutions and convictions for rape from 1997 to 2020. We can look at the latest figures a bit. Keir Starmer, as I say, was director from 08 to 13, but we can also see something interesting. So a couple of years after Starmer stepped down as DPP, prosecutions and convictions both dropped. And when I say dropped, I don't mean they sort of went down a bit, because, you know, sometimes it goes down one year, up another, you know. No, I mean they went off a cliff. You can see for yourself what happened there. And this is all pre-pandemic. All of it's pre-pandemic. The Tories do not get to blame COVID for this one. Now, I don't know exactly what the cause of that is, and I don't think it's likely because Starmer's successor was terrible at their job. I think it's much more likely to have been caused by the Conservative government closing down courts, thus creating a huge backlog of criminal cases. We can note that the huge cliff edge there happened over those first few years of trying to deal with Brexit. So again, the Conservatives focusing on Brexit and completely ignoring everything else. One possibility. In fact, Starmer and Rayner have both brought up the current terrible state of rape convictions in Parliament in recent weeks. Labour don't think it's a weakness for them. You would not think it terribly wise for the Conservatives to be trying to make out that Starmer's time as DPP is a weakness, when the more you look at it, the more it looks like a strength. The angle that the Tories and their client media are trying to take is that the conviction rate at the end of Starmer's time for sex offences was 55%, whereas it is now 81%. You go, oh, that wasn't very good, was it? Again, not sure where they got those exact figures, but I'm going to accept them because someone else went with them anyway. Now, you could see how the Conservatives could try and make an issue of that. If they just presented that, you can see that, can't you? After all, the Tories have a very compliant media. It's not going to be called out by all the other outlets, is it? You would think, you know, the mainstream media is going to be more than happy to present those figures and not bother with further context. Context like someone showed in a Twitter exchange here, because conviction rate is only one side of the coin. There's also prosecution rate. And actually, the lower the prosecution rate, the easier it is to have a higher conviction rate. The prosecution rate dropped off a cliff shortly after Starmer left his post, a couple of years later. Ned shows here that if you were to find the product of conviction and prosecution, so in other words, if you were trying to find out the conviction rate of all cases, 13.4% of cases resulted in conviction under Starmer. Right now, it's only 2.6%. And you could argue, yes, but the Tories won't mention that bit, sure enough. But if the Tories are going to make anything of it, at some point, they're going to have to bring it up with Starmer himself, because they can't use it as an attack line unless they use it against Starmer. At which point, he then has a chance to explain this all to the public. I mean, when we get to the general election itself, there are going to be detailed interviews and TV debates. Can you imagine Rishi Sunak trying to bring this up in a TV debate? If Sunak tries to push this nonsense, who's likely to come off better? Rishi Sunak, who's so bad at politics, he allows himself to be photographed with the word crooked above his head? Or the guy who made a career out of winning very complex arguments and who understands the prosecution data from his own time in office inside out? You can see why the Conservatives would want to attack Starmer's time as DPP. If they have an angle at all, of course you can see that. The Conservatives like to paint themselves as the party of law and order. But not only is it a lie, they have cultivated this lie so poorly in the last few years, there's simply no way to show it off. This is the sort of graph you could just stick on a campaign leaflet and post it through doors. You know, you would put additional information, of course. You would show the calculation showing the percentage increase in both prosecutions and convictions with Starmer in charge, and the percentage decrease in both of them after he stepped down. And nobody would be able to complain about the attack being unfair, because it's just a graph from the House of Commons library with a couple of calculations based on the data contained within. They can even supplement it with Ned's calculation showing that Starmer produced basically 5 times as many convictions as a proportion of cases as is happening now. I'm not sure Greg Hans really thought this one through. It's one thing for the Sun to publish their article, because that's only going to be read by Sun readers, and they're unlikely to see the counter-argument. But sharing it more publicly, Hans just gave the opportunity for people like me to show his followers the expanded viewpoint, which does not exactly cover the Tories in glory. As I've said, the last thing they would want to do is for interviewers to ask Starmer about this, or to have Sunak try and use it as a debating point during the general election campaign. They will be on the lookout for something. They need something to attack Starmer with. Of course they do. Just like Labour needs something to attack Sunak with. It's a lot easier in Labour's case. But, you know, the right wing and the media have been trying for 3 years to get something on Starmer. So what have they come up with? See, first of all, when he was first made leader, the Daily Mail tried to go with, I bought this land. And it's like, yeah. So he bought some land with his own money, not public money, his own money, so that his mother could run a donkey sanctuary. Loves his mother, likes animals. Not really the attack line they were hoping for. Second, that he complied with the law during lockdown. They forced 2 different police investigations, which both had to conclude that he'd fully complied with the law during lockdown. No even grey area about it. Fully complied. Okay. Now they're trying to the attack line that he's produced more prosecutions and convictions for serious sex offences, or indeed all sex offences, during his time as DPP than exist before he took on the role or since he took on the role. I don't think it's going well for them. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.